scary stories. I work with this guy who is nice enough that I consider him a work friend. He's really into anime and superheroes, and started chatting with me because my cube has a bunch of Ninja Turtle figurines. I'm nice to everyone and always willing to have a little chat if I'm not busy. So I talk to him about anime and superheroes, even though I'm not that into it anymore. He sends me a friend request on Facebook, and I accept it. Without giving it much thought, he immediately starts tagging me and writing very long-winded posts about how great it is to be friends with me. I remove the tags and ignore it. I don't pay too much attention to him while he talks, and I do my work, so I miss some rather obvious red flags. First, the Neckbeard should have clued me the fuck in from day one. Dude literally has a neck beard. Like he shaves his face every day, but only shaves his neck once a week. Scraggly ass pube looking scruff. Second, I should have noticed that he was spending much more time at my cube. A 5-minute chat has now become 20 to 30 minutes every damn day. Third, he's no longer standing at the side of my cube. He's sitting on my fucking desk next to my keyboard with his arm on the back of my chair. Lastly, I didn't realize how he always asks really creepy, prying questions to find out personal details of my life. But it gets way worse from here. Let me introduce you to my work Neckbeard. He is 30 years old and lives with his mom. He definitely has mommy issues, as he talks about how she is the most beautiful and perfect woman on earth. He draws softcore porn anime fan art for his mom. He has never had a girlfriend, but he claimed to have dated a Chinese girl. I later find out that there was nothing between them, and he is probably the reason she went back to China and deleted all of her social media accounts. He used to talk about this girl all the time, but stopped around Christmas time. He once told me he was saving money to go to China to search for her, which is kinda super creepy. Unlike most neckbeards, he's not fat and has decent hygiene. He also dresses fairly well, at least at work. For all I know, he wears Naruto shirts at home. Why I did not see how obviously creepy this guy is, I really don't know. Around Christmas, shit got uncomfortable. He gave me a present, a Leonardo Ninja Turtle, his favorite turtle, and a very personal card. In the card, he stated that I was the most beautiful woman he knows aside from his mother, and he hopes our relationship can blossom like a botanical garden. Ick. Dude, I've known you less than a year, and we only talk casually. While you try to tag me in 800 things a day on Facebook, do you not notice I removed those tags and ignore you? We are not close. I actually am in a long-term relationship, which leads to things getting even worse with Neckbeard. Neckbeard hates that I've been dating a guy for 10 years, and I'm not married. He is creepy obsessed with the fact that I don't have a ring. My boyfriend and I don't prioritize marriage. We have a strong relationship and don't give a fuck. We're in the process of buying a house, and when Neckbeard found out, he spazzed the fuck out on me. First, he tells me we can't buy a house because we are not married. If we break up, I'll be trapped. He sends me some stupid article from the BBC about discovered couples stuck living together because of the lack of funds to move out. I call him out for being rude about my relationship, and he backed off for like, half a day. The next day I see him, he tells me I'm breaking his heart. He loves me and can't bear to see me throw my life away like this. Around this time, he starts bringing me gifts and junk food, with notes about how he wouldn't force me to work out and eat a strict diet like my boyfriend does. I should mention, I'm very into fitness, and I'm on a special diet due to GI issues. He left me a pack of Oreos with a drawing of some busty anime girl, and a little note saying, "Thinking of you." Again, I tell him to back off. We are not dating, and never fucking will. I told him our friendship is on thin ice and he needs to leave me alone. He's been working hard over the past month to undermine my relationship, so I blocked him and been avoiding him at work. He follows me when I go on breaks or get coffee and talks about how much better my life would be if I moved in with him and his mom. And how I'll never get a ring from my douchebag boyfriend. I need a nice guy like him. He would treat me like a princess because chivalry is alive and well in his house. I would just need to respect his queen, of course. Oh Lord, please save me. Last week, he gave me the most horrid gift of all. He left me a donut with a plastic ring, like from a vending machine, stuck in it. HR is now involved, and he's not allowed to go to my office. I'm super creeped out though, because he has pretty much all my pictures saved on his phone, and he memorized my personal calendar. He asks shit like what my weekend plans are, and not even thinking, I tell him. I'm realizing he's being manipulative and trying to find me outside of work. His stalking behavior has me notifying friends and family to keep an eye out for him. I used to dream about having a run-in with a Neckbeard so I could share my story, and then I realized that I do have a story. This happened during my freshman year. Buckle up, because this is a long one. This happened in my first year of high school back when I was a wee naive girl who had no clue what a neckbeard even was. I was never a popular kid. I always fit in with the rejects though. That quickly got me into trouble though. Fresh out of middle school, I joined drama class, and that's where I met him, the terrifying Neckbeard. Let me make one thing clear though, he did not look like a Neckbeard at all. He was Asian, skinny, had a baby face with no facial hair whatsoever, and actually smelled decent unlike most of the other lads people seem to run into. However, he was obsessed with anime, had a fedora, and would occasionally refer to us as "Milady." He would Naruto run, use pressure points on people while trying to act cool, and strike anime poses constantly. As soon as I walked into the classroom on my first day, this boy immediately caught my eye. He was peppy and energetic, and loved anime like me. Now my first thought was, I want to be friends with this kid. I walked up to him and introduced myself, and we quickly became friends. Oh boy, I didn't realize what I had just gotten myself into. A few of my other old friends from middle school joined drama class, and I was excited to be with them. We quickly introduced this kid into our friend group. Let's call him Perv. Perv was a great guy at first. We all loved talking about TV and video games, and just nerding out in general. My sister had tutoring, and because of that, I had to stay late and wait for her to finish before my mom picks us up. I always waited at the library with my friends, so it was no big deal. One day, everyone left early, and it was only me and Perv. We sat down at a table and started talking, and then he said, "Hey, do you watch hentai?" Excuse me? I can give you a few suggestions to watch. I was grossed out, but I just ignored the red flags. No thanks, man. Okay. The next day, everything returned to normal. I soon pushed that encounter out of my mind. We exchanged numbers, and soon he started role-playing He said things like, waves at you, grinning, looks in bio to see what's it about. I eventually asked him what the hell he was doing. "Do you not like it?" he asked. "No, not really." "Okay, I'll stop." And he actually stopped. Eventually, he brought in his fedora to school. We were all joking around in the theater auditorium and goofing off in our chairs. I tip back and find that Perv is behind me, and he puts his fedora over my eyes, so my face is covered. I'm laughing and being an idiot when I suddenly hear my male friend, let's call him B, screaming at Perv. Keep in mind I couldn't see anything as the fedora was covering my eyes. Perv is acting innocent and playing it cool, and my other friend is fuming. Perv refuses to tell me what happened, saying, "Oh, it's nothing. Don't worry about it." Then the school bell rings, dismissing us from school. He runs off before I can pester him further. As we are leaving, I flag down B and ask what had happened. He tells me that while the fedora was over my eyes, Perv reached over and tried to grab my titties. Luckily, B stopped him by screaming. I was enraged, but didn't call Perv out on it. Instead, I ignored him for a while. Despite this massive red flag, I still hung out with him for some stupid reason. A couple of weeks later, he texts me a link to a song and says, "It's really good. You should listen to it." Me being the idiot, actually clicked on it to see what it was about. It's a Vocaloid song about panties. "Dude, I don't want to listen to this," I text back. "But it's really good." I didn't want to make him angry, so I pretended I listened to the video and said, "I watched it." "Was it good?" "I guess," I texted back, cringing. Eventually, my friends and I get into D&D, and Perv offers to be a DM. We're thrilled, thinking that we are finally going to be able to play this game we have been waiting to try for ages. We form a small group, just me, Perv, and another friend. I'll call him A, and set up a date. He texts me, "Hey, A can't make it to the session, but you can still come. My parents won't be home, so it'll be just us." Smiley face. I, being the innocent idiot I am, still ready to go, even though this was obviously a setup to get into my pants. I asked my mom if I can go, and because she has more common sense than me, she refuses. I'm upset, thinking that now I won't be able to play the game, and tell him that I'm not coming. He sulks and whines, trying to get me to try talking to my parents again. But I tell him that once my parents make up their mind, they can't be swayed. A couple of weeks later, I talk to my other friend while Perv isn't around. I call her D. And she tells me that while they were sitting together under a blanket, he grabbed her butt and started whispering dirty things into her ear. I'm upset now, but we again don't confront Perv about it. The next day I see him cornering my crush, who was also a girl, Boo Boo. Boo Boo had never been flirted with before and wasn't looking for a relationship at all. And when he pins her up against the wall, I can see the fear in her eyes. I roughly shove Perv off and tell him that he can't just do that to people. With a fake but tense smile on my face and murder in my eyes, he pouts, "I was just joking, jeez," and then walks off. I turn to Boo Boo and ask if she's alright. She hugs me and thanks me for protecting her, and I say I'm just glad that I was able to help. My friends and I start a comic club with a good mix of a few boys and girls, since we all wanted to make a comic together. It goes nowhere, and eventually becomes a club where we all talk. One day, Perv suggests we all share our darkest secrets. We're in the corner of the room, so the teacher supervising us can't hear us. We go around each telling our secrets. Most of them were silly and harmless, and I'm the second to last one. I open up about how I was suicidal at the time. I'm in a much better mental state now, and they all confront me. I turn to Perv. We all went. Now it's your turn. I don't wanna. Mine is embarrassing anyway. He literally fiddles with his fingers like a shy anime girl. This was your idea in the first place. You should go. D pipes up. Fine. Perv sighs dramatically and then confesses his secret. I've been having sexual fantasies about all of the girls in the club. We all go silent. You could hear a pin drop. We all have disgusted looks on our faces, and we all look at each other, checking if what he had just said was real and not something that they misheard. B and a few others silently get up and storm out of the room, slamming the door behind them. The rest of us stay, shocked. No one knows what to say. This was his idea in the first place, after all. The club session ends, and we all leave. And while we are walking, I catch up to Perv. I have a plan, though. Hey, what was I doing in your dream? You were showing yourself off, he says, almost dreamily. Oh, okay. I run off, and from then on I made it a personal goal to never take off my jacket or to ever show off any more skin than I need to in front of Perv. He starts making jokes that whenever a girl in our group says, "Oh my god, I want to die," jokingly, he would turn us into his undead sex slave. But wait, it gets worse. I'm talking to Perv to a few of my other friends, and a teacher overhears us and forces me to report it to the school. I learn that he has done this before with many other girls. One of my other friends, who was on the swim team, tells me that he sent her text about how he wanted to sneak into the locker and watch her change, and that he would love to see her in a bikini. It gets to the point where I wasn't allowed to be in the same room as him, and I had boys offer to beat him up for me. I was told, along with many other girls, that I could press charges against him because we were victims of a disorderly conduct, which all that shit he did, he could have gone to jail, but no one had pressed charges. I wanted to, but my mother wouldn't let me. He gets suspended for 2 weeks. He wasn't suspended the first time, and it was peaceful. No one had to worry about him for a short period of time, and it was heaven on earth. Then, the dreaded day comes when he comes back, and he has a new hair color. His parents rewarded him with letting him dye his hair bright blue. When he comes back, I decide it's finally time to confront him face to face. My friend group flocks around me as I storm out into the hall to confront Perv. Everyone is mad at him at this point. I ask him what the hell was going through his head to make him do these things. He sulks and looks down, except he wasn't looking at the floor. No, he was looking at my tits the whole time, while I chewed him out for his behavior. I had had enough and yelled, "My boobs don't have eyes. Look at me in my damn eyes, Perv." He flinches and makes eye contact with me, looking like a dog that had just been scolded for ruining someone's slippers. Perv mutters an apology and scurries off, and he soon leaves the school for good. But not before he sends me one last text. It's a long-winded paragraph, and at the end he asks me to apologize to all the girls for him because he couldn't show his face at the school anymore. I left him on red. Alright, so it's my sophomore year in high school. I was in JROTC, and we had all gone on a land nav field trip. Basically, we had coordinates and a pace count to find certain spots on our map. We were in groups of about 5 people, and for some reason, my group wanted to run everywhere. The running was no problem for me because I was on the physical team in JROTC. Although one of our group, the lovely stalker neckbeards of the story, couldn't keep up. Stereotypical neckbeard, kinda short, fat, and just all around creepy looking, smelled like he didn't even know what a shower was. I'm sure that if he didn't have to shave for the class, he would have the full neckbeard look, but I felt bad about leaving him behind because he looked so miserable, so I decided to stay back and walk with him. Wrong fucking choice. While walking with him, we just made awkward small talk, while he huffed and struggled to walk beside me, asking me about if I had a boyfriend and such. I kept the conversation short, but did reveal I was single, me and my big mouth. The next day, he friended me on Facebook. Not thinking about anything, I accepted it. Immediately started messaging me, asking if I liked Avatar, The Last Airbender, and other similar things. He started complimenting me a lot. I didn't start to get really weirded out until he started calling me his perfect woman. He constantly blew up my phone and would get mad if I didn't respond in time. I should have just deleted him, but he would get really panicked and say he would kill himself when it seemed I was backing off. I tried my best to avoid him, but we did actually have JROTC together, and it made it impossible to keep him away. He would follow me around, no matter what we were doing. Flipping a coin saying heads, I get head, tails, I get tail, which was super creepy and cringe-worthy. After about a week, he started waiting for me outside of my classes and would try to follow me into my next class for a hug. I would dodge him until my teacher would tell him to leave. He got one of his friends to ask me why I was avoiding him and that I should give him a chance because he is so nice, to which I always declined. It got to where he would follow me to every one of my classes and knew my schedule by heart. I told him to knock it off because it made me uncomfortable. One night he messages me, asking me why I don't give him a chance. Trying to be nice, I told him I was into someone else. He went completely off, telling me I was a bitch and a tease and no man will ever love me the way he will, that they will just break my heart, that he is a true gentleman, he will treat me like a queen, that no one else deserves me, and he has seen death before and isn't afraid to see it again. What? I deleted and blocked him and changed my route to class. About another week later, we were standing in formation in JROTC, and I feel someone grab my ass. I turn around to see him standing here, waving at me, with this shit-eating grin on his face. Just as I'm about to make a scene, a friend from my team whips around to give him the bitching of a lifetime. While I was embarrassed and felt violated, it had happened at all. Seeing the sheer look of terror on his face was gold. I reported it and he got a stern talking to. His friend from before tells me that I was a bitch for making such a big deal about it, and I should apologize for embarrassing him. The next day, he messages me from a new Facebook account and asks me to meet him in person so he can apologize. I told him no. I blocked him, and I wouldn't walk to class alone. Went a different route every day and asked teachers to keep an eye out for him so he couldn't come in or wait on me. One day he gets transferred to a different school out of the blue, and I haven't heard from him since. One night in November of 2017, when I was 22 years old, my mom and I went grocery shopping while standing in the bakery section. My mom and I ran into my aunt, and the three of us stood there and chit-chatted for a while. I had been feeling generally uneasy around this time because I had recently been watching a lot of YouTube videos about true crime and creepy encounters. I was having trouble sleeping and had been getting scared when I was home alone and heard the tiniest noises. Due to this uneasiness or paranoia, I guess, I was very alert and on edge at the bakery at my grocery store. I stood there with my back to the bagels and kept an eye on everyone walking around past us as my mom and aunt shared stories. Nobody seemed suspicious until I caught the eye of a prematurely balding man. He looked like your average mid-30s brody neckbeard nice guy. I remember thinking to myself, God, he's kinda creepy looking, isn't he? As he walked through the produce section into the bakery, but then I started to feel bad. Chill out, you're being way too judgmental, I told myself, going so far as to even smile at him out of sheer guilt. He's probably staring at you because you're staring at him. He's just glancing on his way by. He's going to forget about you the second he takes his eyes off of you, right? Wrong. I completely forgot about this experience for a few blissfully ignorant months. Then in January, I received a messenger request from an old friend I'd like to touch with. My long-lost friend was the first of many to reach out, saying that there was a lot of buzz on Facebook about a local sex offender who had been taking pictures of young women with hair he deemed pretty, some in their 20s, like me, some well below the age of 18, and posting them on a picture-sharing site. I don't know exactly how, but his online albums stocked with, and I am not exaggerating, thousands of these pictures had been found, and a bunch of screenshots were being plastered all over Facebook to raise awareness. My old friend saw a few pictures of me standing against the bagels, flanked by my mother and my aunt, my long hair hanging down, and my post-French braid waves. I felt sick to my stomach when I saw the screenshots. I told my family about what I just found out, and my brother immediately called the police to report it. As he was talking to an officer, I received more screenshots, this time of the creep's sex offender registry page. It was the man from the grocery store, the man I was initially unnerved by, the man I felt guilty about, the man I smiled at. When my brother got off the phone with the police, he told us that they had been flooded with reports all night. While sympathetic, the policeman my brother spoke to said there was nothing they could do, as the creep was legally within his rights to take those pictures of us out in public. The man was allegedly assaulted outside of a convenience store the night his pictures were discovered. Before he even realized it, he had been exposed, and he has since been arrested for possession of child pornography and an unrelated case. My brother had actually been aware of this guy long before, as he was apparently infamous on the net for being a sketchy white dude who was obsessed with Asian women, had a hair fetish, and oh yeah, was a convicted sex offender. So as they say, creepy photographer, let's not meet again. I met Jacob in my science class, but we actually started talking during a dumb assembly, and we sat together because we were both the loner types in our class. We had so much in common, and I grew to love him as a friend. We were really close. I was a very shy girl, never talked about what was going on with me mentally with anyone, but I could trust Jacob. I told him what my mother's boyfriend was doing to me, what Alex was like, and he helped me feel happy again. I told him how Alex was abusive and how I felt trapped with him. Jacob was always there when I got bruises and whatnot, Eventually, me and Alex had a fight, and I told him we were over because he only talked about sex. I felt like a weight was off of my shoulders for once. I told Jacob right away, and all he said was perfect. I thought it was a bit odd, but continued to hang out for the next few days. He suddenly asked me out, and I told him, Jacob, no, I just got out of a relationship that really fucked me up. I can't handle that right now. He seemed very upset, but understood, so I thought. I come into my science class early to see Jacob crying with the teacher for some reason. She was a great teacher, always helped people struggling. She looked at me and waved me over. Hey, I know you guys are besties. What's going on? I have no idea. Jacob says you don't want to be friends with him anymore. Did something happen? I never said that. He asked me out and I said no, I want to be friends. Oh, I'm sorry. But Jacob, can't you forgive your bestie? You guys have been so close. You don't want to throw that away, huh? He just never responded and didn't show for school for like a week. I was worried and just told him I was here for him and didn't mean to upset him. He came back and it's like he was a different person. He had a huge scar on his neck, like he had been choked or something, and big scars on his wrists. I immediately started bawling my eyes out and hugged him, asking what happened.
You don't love me, so I punished myself.
I dropped to the floor, crying, by my locker. I didn't know what to do. I loved my best friend, but I didn't want to date him. I just stayed by his side at all times. I tried to make him happy, like I used to. Nothing. He told me if I wanted to help, I'd have to kiss him better, and I just couldn't do that. Day after day, he told me how it's my fault he's depressed and hurting himself. So after a while, I started cutting, and because I was dealing with eating disorders, this didn't help. I just stopped eating for 2 months, where most of the time I'd switched to bulimia. I was so pale, my rib cage started showing a bit, and I looked unhealthy to the point my teacher got the school involved. I told them everything. I told them how I didn't want to lose Jacob, and I didn't want him to die because I didn't want to date him. And then he stopped coming to school. A month, and he was nowhere. I thought he was in the hospital or something. I asked my teacher if she knew if he was okay. She told me they sent him to a different school, and that he wasn't allowed to talk to me or see me because he threatened other kids who I was close with that he would hurt me if they talked to me, and those kids told the school. A few months later, I finally started to try and get better after we moved back to my old town. I get a friend request. The profile picture is something like in a horror film. It's Jacob with bloody bandages on his face revealing only one eye, and under the name of Gregory Black. I did not accept it, but got some creepy messages about how I'm not smart and that I make him go crazy, and how his mother threw him into a psych ward or something and he finally got out. I have no idea if anything he said was true, but honestly, I got fed up with him. I didn't care about him being my old bestie. He was awful, he needed help, and he refused it. I blocked him, and I haven't heard from him since. So Jacob, let's not meet again. Now I'm healthy, I eat 3 meals a day, and I'm sober. I still have anxiety and depression, but I plan on getting help, and though I wish no harm on him, I really do hope he gets the help he needs. Know your worth and know when you need to leave. This leads into why I was so messed up with the Neckbeard story. Even with all of this bad shit that happened to me, I don't look for sympathy. I only hope that if you are struggling to get help or leave a situation before it messes you up. I definitely learned a lot. through my experiences, and I am proud of who I am today. Don't be afraid to ask for help, or to tell your family or anyone you can trust to get out of a bad place. I was working at a fabric and craft store when I encountered who I am going to call Neckbeard. The first time we met, he was needing help getting something off of a shelf and wandered to my side of the store, the fabric side. Of course, I go and help him, and it's customary at the store to ask, "What are you working on?" He tells me he makes what I can only describe as nerd stuff to sell at conventions. I tell him that's super cool, and I am a cosplayer myself and attend many conventions. He thanks me and goes on his way. The next week he shows up on the same day, comes right over to me. We aren't busy, so we strike up a conversation about cosplaying, and he asked if I could help him with one he wanted to work on. I asked to see a picture, and it's essentially a muscle suit with a loincloth. Immediately after showing me, he jumps into,
I can't pull it off though. I'm too fat to pull it off.
and of course I start telling him how cosplay is for everybody, and he can wear whatever he wants. He asks again if I can help him sometime with it, and that he would pay me a lot of money to. I decline, but he scribbles down his number.
In case you change your mind.
I threw it away. The next day he comes in again. This time we're busy, and makes a beeline right for me. I was putting fabric away in the back corner of the store, and instantly starts berating me.
Why didn't you call me? I gave you my number so you could call me. I told you I would give you a lot of money.
I quickly look around, and there's nobody, just me, 5'2", and Neckbeard, who's a very big guy. I start to tell him I need to go back to the counter, and he's stopping me and backing me up further into the corner. I have no idea what to do or how to flag anyone down. Then I remember the headset we all wear, and I just push the talk button, and between him yelling at me, I would say things like, "Sir, I really need to get out of the fleece section and go back to the counter." Soon an employee came and saw what was going on and said, "OP, it's time for your break, hurry up." And she grabbed my arm and whisked me away. I had to write up an incident report with my manager, who decided to not ban this guy from the store. So instead, whenever he came in, people would use a code over the headset to let me know to go sit in the back until he left. It worked for a while until one day we were really busy. I was a manager myself now and was running a register. I didn't look up and just called the next person. That's when I heard,
Wow, I haven't seen you in a while.
and I looked up and saw it was Neckbeard. I put on my best fake smile and just said, "Oh, my schedule's changed a lot. I work another job now." He asked me where, and I just told him, in the strip mall. Of course, I wasn't going to tell him the actual place. I thought it was over until right before he left. He put his hand on my shoulder and said,
Well, when you're off tonight, you should give me a call.
I had to be walked to my car after my shift and switched to overnights, so I never see him again. I still live in fear I'll see him at a convention sometime and worry what I'll do if I do. This started a few years back when I was in middle school. In the 7th grade, to be specific, there was a guy in my class, Seb. He didn't seem to be the type of person he is. He was into Star Wars, and his favorite character was Kylo Ren, which he drew frequently. and was really good at skating. We didn't really talk much, but we texted over Kik a lot. After about a year of communicating over Kik, we transfer her over to Discord and have some pretty serious conversations, and around February of the next year we start to date. I also moved for the 8th grade, so it was getting harder and harder to communicate. Even so, we still managed to talk for around an hour a day. I'm not sure what happened, but Seb's personality began to change. If I didn't text him back within a few minutes, he would get concerned and spam me with tons of texts asking if I was alright or if I was hanging out with other people, even if I was asleep. It got pretty annoying, but I couldn't just ignore him because he was my boyfriend. Before the start of high school, I got my first phone and decided to let Seb have my number. After a while, Seb would call me at random times of the day to ask me really strange questions, which I prefer not to add. After about 2 months of this, I decided I didn't want to talk to him anymore because his behavior was really overwhelming. And Seb being Seb, he constantly asked if I was okay. I was buried in homework, and him bombarding me with texts didn't help. After about a week of not texting him, I decided to text back. I was nervous because I didn't know what M might do. He answered less than a minute later. We had a conversation just as we had before, but this felt different. It felt wrong. After a few minutes of talking, Seb calls, and we finish the conversation over smartphone. Once it's over, and we're about to end the call, he says to me that he loves me. I find myself unable to say it back to him, feeling the same feelings from before. I say, okay, and hang up. I go back to not talking to Seb because I needed to focus in on my studies and not him. I'm not sure how much time passes after that, but I get a call. It's Seb. He asks me where I have been in a pretty angry tone. At this point, Seb has tried texting me on several different platforms, and I'm just tired of all of the texts from him. I decided to stop talking to him altogether because Seb is starting to get obsessive. I understand that I was his girlfriend and he can get worried, but that doesn't make up for texting me multiple times a day when I have already stated that I was working. I stopped texting back or answering phone calls because I was too afraid to break it off, but I knew I wouldn't be with Seb anymore. He had sent images of self-harm of his body, and I was scared of what he might do if I break up with him. Then, November of that same year, my worst fear had come to life. I was transferring back to the school district from before, and I remember feeling the dread from the realization that I'd go to school with Seb again. On the first day there, all I remember is feeling scared because I didn't want to have to confront him about the 2 months absent I'd taken from talking to him. Around a weekend, he spotted me from down the hallway while I was going to my first period of class. I felt my stomach drop, and I saw Seb's expression change as I quickly put my head down and rushed away. Later that same day, Seb calls me. I let his call ring out. Once the phone stops ringing, and he asks if I was going to the said high school, he said that he thought he saw me and asked sarcastically if he was going insane. Even though this was sarcasm, I felt the pain of guilt run through my body. Even then, I couldn't bring myself to call him back. I was once again spammed through my phone. Around a month later in November, we moved again, as this high school was a transitional school before I moved out of state. He called me frequently, and every time I'd let him go to voicemail. Every time I did, the messages Seb left got more and more unsettled. It got to the point that he threatened suicide if I did not answer. After a while, he stopped, and a mutual friend let Seb know that I was okay, and that I didn't want relations with him anymore, and the mutual told me that Seb wanted to give me a letter before I left, and I couldn't receive it because the day I left was the day Seb was planning to give it to me. Apparently he had been looking for me outside of the school knowing that I walk home, but this day, my dad picked me up just after 12:30 around the middle of the third block. I was grateful that my dad picked me up early because even then I was still scared of the confrontation, but after I left the state, I felt the worst kind of guilt I ever had, the displeasure of experiencing. So yeah, after stopping the calls with his phone, he began calling with other phones in the middle of the day. One I remember is when I was in my English class. At my old school, he called me convinced I was still at the old school, and being in class, I ignored the call because I could have gotten in trouble for answering. After this incident, I blocked his phone number knowing it was him, seeing that Seb has done this before. I also blocked Seb on other platforms because I was done with his actions towards me, and I didn't want him talking to me at all. A few weeks go by, I found out that Seb had an Instagram account and blocked me on there before he could find me. I sought out his handle. I obsessed over finding it and realized his actions in turn made me obsess over him as well. Finding him was to avoid him. I found Seb's handle and blocked him as soon as I found it. I was ashamed because I didn't want to give Seb the satisfaction of constantly thinking about him. Now, I'm in a healthy relationship with a person who makes me happy and helps me see past the guilt of the past and look for the future. Wow, that's incredibly cheesy. Note, apparently Seb has done this to other girls before and after me. Also, he was a neckbeard. LOL. So, as a bit of a heads up, unfortunately I don't have any screenshots of our conversation. I'm non-binary, a bit important for later, and I won't be sharing names or what app or platform I was on for privacy reasons. We'll call our neckbeard Armsbeard. So a bit of background. I'm in an online community where we talk about one of our favorite Nintendo games, Arms, a fighting game for the Nintendo Switch that came out 3 years ago. Characters with stretching arms would fight in boxing matches to claim victory. It's really fun and fast-paced. It's an underrated gem, and I'm kinda sad it didn't get more story elements, elaborate and share more backstory on the fighters, and had overall more content. Anyways, the short story. So it was just a normal day for me. I was working on an online art request for the said community when I suddenly got a notification that someone wanted to talk with me. It was Armsbeard. I didn't really want to talk to him at first because he mostly broke a few of the community rules, such as posting pictures of himself, selfies, which usually got taken down by moderators because of them being off topic. Anyways, he wanted to chat with me. I accepted the request because maybe he was interested in an art request or wanted to ask me something such as art advice. Hi, can I help you with anything?
No. Just wanted to talk.
Oh, okay. Well, we're talking, LOL.
Okay. Do you like arms?
Yes, I do like arms. I main Mechanica, Springman, Min, Lollipop, and Robin Girl.
You're really cool, and I like you.
I'm sorry, but I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that because I don't know the full context.
I love you, Boo.
Keep in mind that this is the only conversation I've ever had with this guy. I'm sorry, but I don't feel the same way. And please, don't call me Boo.
Okay. Do you like me?
So far, I think you're pretty cool, so yeah. I don't like being mean to people, so that's what I said. Judge me all you want.
So, we're boyfriend and girlfriend.
No way, sorry man. I don't like you like that. I'm not even a girl. And then he deleted all of his messages and left the conversation. Sorry the story was short and not that interesting. Last year I would pick up my sister from school since she didn't have a car and I wasn't going to college. She was 17, I was 19. Now my sister was your typical neckbeard bait. She's fairly attractive, long blonde hair, green eyes, and a great personality. She's a joy to be around and seems to like everyone and everything. She's watched quite a bit of anime and reads a lot of manga. Her friend group was normal, filled with people who fit her interest and personality. I've talked to quite a few of her friends, one of them being my own. They're all chill, really good people, which makes it so weird that the Neckbeard was a part of it. Neckbeard wasn't the stereotypical neckbeard in terms of look. He was actually very attractive. He was lean, never smelled like BO, and wasn't greasy. He did, however, have a bit of a neckbeard growing, so by looks, you wouldn't expect it. He liked anime and all of that, but his personality was just god-awful. He was constantly putting others down, subtly, but it was still there. He was a major creep. It was freaky scary how good he was at manipulation and making it seem like he wasn't degrading his and Elle's friends, as well as Elle, even if he was. Once I met him, I disliked him. I have a lot of experience with people like him, so I knew pretty quickly what type of guy he was. I voiced these concerns to Elle, but she brushed them off, believing there was good in everyone. The first time I met him was when I went to pick up my sister from an after-school club. I forget which one, but Neckbeard was in it too. She asked me to give him a ride home as well, so I decided that since he was her boyfriend, it wouldn't be that bad. Oh ho ho, how wrong I was. Right off the bat, he had noticed my shirt.
Is that a Green Day shirt? I love them.
Oh really? They were one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, I'd totally love to have a night with the singer, you know, alone. Come to think of it, you kinda look like him. What's your name?
Me, starting to become very uncomfortable. I'm Gerald.
I just love that name. It rolls off of the tongue nicely.
I started to get very uncomfortable now. Elle didn't seem to notice, so I didn't mention it, not wanting to ruin her day. Normally, saying I looked like Billy Joe Armstrong would be an ordinary compliment I'd receive. I'd had the same hair as him and somewhat the same fashion sense, but the comment before the comparison rubbed me wrong, and the part about my name even more so. I stopped the conversation there, and we didn't say anything else to each other until I dropped him off.
Thanks for the ride. Maybe I'll see you later.
He gave me this awkward wink before walking away, and Elle moved to the front seat. I don't fucking like him. He's nice. Once you get to know him, really, Elle replied. She seemed set on that, so I didn't push the topic more. Over the next few months, I'd seen a lot more of Neckbeard. Enough to see that he was not the kind of guy I wanted around Elle, or anyone, really. He was perverted and degrading, and I absolutely despised him. But the encounter I'd like to talk about is what happened on Elle's birthday. She invited all of her friends, including Neckbeard. I'd gotten a hold of some alcohol through my friends where I live. It's illegal to drink underage with consent from parents, and I baked a cake. The whole house was decorated, and everything seemed to be going great. I stayed away from the group, letting Nell have her fun around with her friends and drank by myself on the couch, making sure that nothing got too bad. I talked to one of mine and Nell's mutual friends. F hung out with me towards the middle when I started to get drunk enough to act a bit out of character, but not enough to not remember what would happen. Dude, look. F motioned behind me. I looked where he suggested, only to see Neckbeard staring at me from where he sat with Elle and her friends. I looked away. You're all he talks about now, you know? He's got one hell of a crush on you. Oh, really? I've only had like 2 conversations with him. Yeah, it's crazy. It makes Elle hella weirded out. As if he could hear us talking about him, Neckbeard sat next to me on the couch, close enough to have our thighs touching. Hi guys. F. I think Elle is going to start a game of Uno. She wants you to join. F decided to join Elle, giving me a sympathetic look as he left me with Neckbeard. Good God, once we were alone, it started. His hands never left me. They were always on a part of me, whether it was my clothes or actual body parts. I never liked being touched much, so it creeped me out and put me on edge. At this point, though, I was too drunk to be able to do anything about it. Hey, Gerald. You seem to be close with F. Huh? Oh yeah, he's a good friend. His tone, from what I remember, was slightly off, as if he was angry at me. How have you been? You look good. It's been a while since I've seen your pretty face. I shifted away from him then. I remember not wanting to be anywhere near him as he said that. What made it worse was his hand was on my arm. I wanted to vomit. Thanks. Could you please not touch me?
Why? Are you gay?
That was a head spinner at the time. I wasn't out to a lot of people then. Only L, F, and some of my other friends. I asked how he knew that, and he said he saw L texting me about it once. I sighed. Aren't you dating L?
Yeah.
It's recent, and it's not like I'm not allowed to experiment. His hands moved to my thigh, and I attempted to shift away. But I drank a lot by that point that I wasn't anywhere near strong enough to move his 6-foot body with my 5'6" one. He moved to press into me more and grabbed my chin, forcing me to kiss him as I tried to wiggle away. It didn't work. He shifted to move on top of me, his knees pushed against my crotch. Just let it happen. I promise it'll feel fine. I started to have a panic attack as memories of past years came back from his actions, and I started to sob. I all but screamed at him to get off, called Elle's name, and started to thrash around. He seemed to get scared by my actions and jumped off. I don't remember what happened after that, as I was in the middle of a panic attack, but I was told he left, and L and F helped me up the stairs to my room. This is the story of the time I dated a neckbeard, mama's boy. Yeah, it's gonna get interesting. Let me introduce the characters. Me, littlest ghoul, LG, Neckbeard, Gravedigger, Neckbeard's mother, Nancy. I met Gravedigger back in November on Tinder. Obviously, we matched right away. Now, I'm not the prettiest ghoul in the world, so try not to pass judgment on less attractive people. Gravedigger wasn't your typical neckbeard. Yeah, he had a bit of a belly, but he was mostly healthy. He showered every day and use deodorant. The only reason he's classified as a neckbeard is because he has a pretty patchy beard on his lower jaw and neck. He wore a fedora to our first date. He also likes the same things your typical neckbeard would like. But besides all that, Gravedigger seemed like a lovely man. The story takes place back in January after I formally met his mother and stepdad. We went out for the afternoon for a date, going for coffee and seeing the ice sculptures. It was winter in Canada, so we tried to stay inside as much as we could. His mom had invited me over for dinner since the first time I met her was over the holidays, and she never got to sit down with me one-on-one. Nancy was sweet to me the entire dinner. She seemed to approve of me. I was worried because I'm an alternative girl with tattoos and facial piercings, and at the time, bright green hair, whereas she was very conservative. She didn't believe in sex before marriage. She had pictures of Jesus all over her house, and her kids were plain looking against their will. His sister wanted to dye her hair a funky color, but Nancy refused to allow it. His sister is an adult. Nancy asked me your typical questions when you were trying to get to know your child's boyfriend or girlfriend. Did you enjoy the holidays? What did you do? Did you see your family? Do you have siblings? Do you have a job or go to school? It was all fine and dandy. She asked me what I did for work. Now I'm open with people about where I work and what I do. But for a very good reason, this was off-putting for me. See, I work at an adult novelty store. We also do events and demonstrations at alternative bars and clubs. The store is more geared toward alternative lifestyles instead of your run-of-the-mill toys and accessories. But I sucked it up and told her the truth. I didn't want to lie to her, but I also didn't want to tell her the whole truth. I told her I worked at an alternative lifestyle store where we sold everything you'd need for a scene. She was shocked into silence. Gravedigger's sister was curious to learn more about my job and if I took it seriously. I obviously told her I did. You have to when it comes to these things. It's all fun and games until someone gets non-consensually hurt. Now let me preface something before going ahead in the story. Gravedigger was a virgin. He was pushing 30 and has never messed with someone before. He's never even kissed a girl before me. But he was one ready boy. He had things he was into and wanted to try with me. But I told him to educate himself on those things before we tried them. So in short, Gravedigger was one kinky virgin. Now, I'm not saying being a virgin is bad. I personally don't believe in virginity, but each to their own. Now back to the story. Not long after that, I went home. Gravedigger and I talked the entire time it took me to get back home. I was on the bus. He said his mom was still shocked and quiet when I got home. I had a shower and went to bed since it was late. Usually Gravedigger messaged me in the morning before I got up, but that morning I got nothing. I just thought he decided to sleep in, so I shot him a good morning message instead. I thought it was odd that for the entire day I didn't hear anything from him until that evening. Gravedigger messages me. I don't have the messages anymore, but the conversation went like this.
I have something to tell you, but you gotta promise me you won't be mad.
Okay.
No, promise me you won't be mad.
Okay, I promise I won't be mad. What is it?
Last night, when you left, my mom had more questions about you.
Alright, what does she want to know?
Well, you don't have to answer them.
What did she want to know?
She wanted to know about your sex life. Like, she asked how many partners you've had, if it's only been guys or if you've been with girls too. She wanted to know about your likes and stuff.
I didn't know what to feel. I was furious and embarrassed all at the same time. This woman asked questions about me she didn't even need to know. I'm open and honest with the person I'm dating, but not their entire family. They don't need to know those things. But wait, it gets better. That's none of her business, you know.
Yeah, about that.
What? Did you...
I answered her questions.
Why? Why would you do that?
She wanted to know.
So you just told her? What did you even tell her?
I told her everything.
Yes, that's right. He told her everything about me and my private life. I felt so violated. I ended up calling him to chew him out about it. I guess his mom was there when I was doing that, and she took the phone away from him. She was downright cruel to me. She called me everything from a slut and a whore to a degenerate. She said I had poisoned her son into having sex before marriage and gotten him into that lifestyle. I practically begged Gravedigger to stand up to his mother, but he was quiet. As his mother was tearing into me, Gravedigger said his mom had the right to know those things about me. But I'm guessing deep down, he knows she doesn't, since he asked me not to be mad at him when he told me. Gravedigger even sided with his mom. He said he wasn't into the same things I was into until he met me. I told him where to find his balls in his mother's purse, and then I blocked them. Let's just say that wasn't the end of that relationship. So, I've been a cosplayer for 4 years, and actually attending conventions for around that time. I'm 17, a girl, and I've been told that I'm decently attractive. During this incident, I was dressed up as Katori from Love Live, so my skirt was admittedly a little too short. Cut to the actual con. I'd been there for a couple of hours, and after a mix-up with my badge registration, I was already on edge. Luckily, one of my friends had spotted me in the crowd and pulled me over to them and their group, and we decided to grab a coffee from the hotel cafe. After a few minutes, I noticed a guy staring at me from the corner of my eye. This is normal for cons. You'll always have people looking at you or asking for photos, but with him, I felt deeply unsettled, trying to convince myself that it was just nerves from earlier. I turned away and rejoined the conversation with my friends. After a good 20 or so minutes, we were done and ready to head upstairs to the vendor's hall. I still had that unsettling feeling, so I glanced back behind me. He's still there. To give a visual, this guy is around 5'7" in height, maybe a little taller. He's stocky, Asian, and dressed in what I believe was a poorly executed rendition of Joseph Joestar, and he's just staring. Feeling even more nervous, I grabbed onto my friend's back and followed the group down the hall and up the escalator. As we got off, I looked back behind me again, and he's on one of the bottom stairs of the escalator, camera out and pointed towards me. I'm starting to get upset now. My friends haven't noticed him yet, and I didn't want to make a fuss quite yet, as I'm not the confrontational type, so I keep this to myself. We enter the vendor's hall. Great, I think to myself. We can definitely lose him here. Wrong. As we turn down the aisles of the crowded vendor's hall, I can still feel his eyes boring holes into my back whenever we turn. At this point, I'm less nervous and more angry that he's been making me uncomfortable. I decided it was time to tell my group that I have been seeing this guy since we were downstairs, and they all agreed to try to lose him. We decided to go to the second level of the con, where we could find panels, as well as the security booth. I move from the back of the group to the center, and I feel slightly relieved that he's not directly behind me. We run into another friend on that level, Max, a short but intimidating guy who's immediately pissed off about the creep who has been following me. At this point, we're all tired, so we decide to head down to the lobby and hang out until it's time to part ways. I haven't seen this guy in maybe 45 minutes or so, so I'm a little more relaxed. Downstairs, someone breaks out their cards and we play Uno, mostly dicking around. However, 15 minutes into the game, I see a flash out of my peripheral vision. Instinctively, I turn around and my heart drops into my stomach. It's the man again. My friends noticed too, and they all glare at him. Max jumps out of his seat and stands there, staring at the guy. Creep is still ignoring them, making eye contact with me. Camera still pointed. I get up too, and pull my friend Jane up with me. Enough is enough, I decided. Jane and I leave the rest of the group downstairs with the guy, and head up to the second floor security booth. I give my statement to the apathetic officer, who sort of brushes me off. He told me to just avoid him. Like I haven't been doing that all day. Jane is obviously pissed off at this too, and offers to drive me back to my hotel so I don't have to deal with this creep. I oblige, and the rest of the night went without incident. The second to last day of the con, I see the guy again. This time, instead of following me around and taking photos, he decides to approach me. I was with Max at the time, and he notices the guy walking up to us and tenses up. The guy reaches for one of my hands, and I take a step back, trying to avoid him as much as possible. He looks at me, mumbles something about wanting to do me, and walks away as Max and I head back for the security desk. Of course, they did nothing. I ended up catching the con plague that night anyways, and leaving early on the last day. So I don't know what happened to the guy, or the photos he took of me. I don't even want to think about it. What bothers me the most is how calm this guy was. It was like he had no emotion for this whatsoever. Maybe he had done this before. I've had my fair share of other convention creeps, but this one stands out, as it was so recent, and how he kept following me around for what seemed like forever. I have another convention coming up in January, and I'll be pissed as hell if I see him again. So, convention creep, let's not meet again.